Hi, welcome to Mad Scientist Barbecue. I'm Jeremy Yoder, and today we're going to unbox these Shun Premier knives that I ordered from Williams-Sonoma. In my last unboxing video, I showed you some Shun Sora knives that I got at Costco. Unfortunately, one of those knives had a huge chip in the blade, and so I had to take them back and return them. And I thought, since I had already ordered a Shun Premier boning knife from Williams-Sonoma, I thought I might as well order a few more pieces and a knife block and just get all of those instead of the Shun Sora knives that had a lot of what I thought were redundant knives and knives I probably wouldn't use at all. So these are those knives. They came in the mail, and today we're going to open them up and take a look at them. I also want to give a shout out to Andrew at the Topanga Canyon Williams-Sonoma in the mall. He was phenomenally helpful, and if I were a CEO of a company, I would want every single employee to be like that. He's a huge help. I can't recommend him highly enough. If you live in Los Angeles, go see him. He will help you out. All right, let's open these up. I'm going to use this box opener that I actually got when I worked at Kmart in high school. I would work in receiving. We'd get boxes and you have to open them up and put everything out on the floor. I did that back in Western Kentucky, God's country, where all the good people live. But I love this thing. I used it forever. I don't know, I just have some kind of sentimental attachment to it. So let's go ahead and open this box. Brings back memories of wearing white polos and black shorts. Let's see what we got. A gift card. Nice. $10 off my next purchase of $50 or more. Awesome. The key, reward yourself, 7 inspiring brands, 1 key to unlock them all. Okay, here we go. This is the stuff I really care about. Okay. This, by the way, is cutting board treatment that I got. They didn't have it in the store, but I ordered some because if you guys have seen the hodgepodge of those little plastic cutting boards I've been using, I need a new one anyway. So I'm gonna get a new cutting board, gonna treat it with this. These are beautifully packaged, I think. Let's open them up. Aha! Ooh, knives with a block, and then a little insert with their information about their lifetime warranty, etc. Let's open up the block here. This block feels really sturdy. I think it's made out of bamboo. Nice and heavy. It looks really good. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 available slots with the hunting rod. Let me take a look at that. And it's got 1 place for shears. Let's open up these knives. These are herb shears, so they're not big, powerful shears that you can cut really tough stuff with. They're just meant for herbs. So if you've got some herbs that you don't want to try and dirty up a cutting board with, you just want to cut them up so you can add them to whatever recipe you're using. It's meant for just chopping those herbs. It feels really sturdy, and I believe they come apart, so they're usually washable. Put it in the shear slot. All right, next, the 6.5-inch utility knife. You notice a couple things about these knives. First, there's a wavy pattern. Almost like when you see oil and water and the sun shines on it, it kind of has this ripple effect. That's because this is what's called a Damascus steel. So what they have is they have a core steel that is VG Max, and then they layer that with, I think it's 64 layers of stainless steel to make it more resilient and less likely to stain and corrode. And then on the top, you see these dimples. That's from hammering the steel, just to make it a little bit more beautiful. And for bigger knives like the chef's knife, it helps to keep food from sticking to the blade, like Granton blades. So a 6.5-inch utility knife. There are small serrations on either end, and then a straight edge for cutting right in the middle, in the block. Next, we have 4-inch paring knife. Here, it's very similar to the paring knife in the Shun Sora set, just a little bit higher quality. It's got the same finish as the utility knife, except there are no serrations on this. This is meant for doing cutting off of the cutting board. So if you're peeling something like a vegetable or something like that, you would have it in your hand like this off of the board. Whereas a chef's knife, you're on the board cutting. If you look at the wood in the handle, it's really beautiful wood. And I think it's impregnated with resin to keep it from absorbing water and rotting, things like that. And then there's a tiny bit of gold right here before the end of the handle, just a kind of a decorative touch. And then finally, on all these knives, there is a Shun logo stamped on the back of the knife, which just, I think, makes it look a little bit more classy and something that I think people who spend a lot of money on their knives will enjoy a little bit more. All right, the last one that came in this set. So this set included 3 knives, the shears, and a block. And this is the one I'm most excited about, the 8-inch chef's knife. Here you can see the hammered finish even more than in the other knives because this is bigger. There's more space to really see the hammering. You can see a great Damascus pattern. It looks so beautiful that this knife looks more like a work of art than most knives you'll encounter. It's pretty well balanced. I can do it on one finger there, so that if you use a pinch grip while you're using your chef's knife, it'll feel good in the hand. It's not going to feel awkward or unbalanced. So if you are doing your cutting, it's going to be comfortable and you're going to make better cuts because it's comfortable. Finally, this handle isn't actually perfectly round. This is made for right-handed people. I think you can get left-handed knives also. It's somewhat irregular in shape so that the right side fits in the hand more so you have more control and more stability. But this knife is the most beautiful of all the knives that we've seen so far, and it's the last knife in this set. So we'll put this guy in the slot, and then we're going to open the bony knife that I had originally ordered, and the one that didn't come in the set, but I really, really wanted because it's going to be really sharp, it's going to maintain its edge for a long time, and I want to use it to try and trim some meat. So this one I bought separately. Now a word about the price. This set, the block, the chef's knife, the utility knife, the paring knife, the shears, was $499 for the Premier line of knives. And I didn't want to get a bunch of knives that I wasn't going to use. I could have gotten a cheaper set of knives with 12, 15 knives in the set, but I wouldn't use most of them. And I wouldn't really love any of them. And so I wanted knives that I would love, I would use, and I didn't want any redundancy in the knives that I bought. So for that reason, I got a smaller set, and fortunately for me, I had a lot of gift cards that I used, so this set was basically free for me, which was very convenient. And then finally, we have the boning knife. They call this the Gokujo knife, I believe, but it's a curved boning knife. And so, one thing you'll notice about this knife is it's obviously not straight, okay? It's curved away from the handle like this, and I think that's to make it easier to trim meat. And I'm not going to be using this to cut through any bones because this is VG Max steel. It's a very, very hard steel, and so if you use it to cut through things with lots of bones, it can chip. So the drawback of having a very, very hard steel is that it's more brittle. The harder the steel, generally speaking, the more brittle the steel becomes. So for this, I'm not going to be cutting through anything that's hard. I'll be counting on a really sharp edge to trim off fat, to cut through meat with no bones, like trimming up a brisket or a pork butt or something like that. And I'm going to take really good care of these knives. Hopefully they'll last for a long, long time. A final note about this knife is I bought it separately, and it cost, I believe it was $145. I felt that I needed a good quality knife, one that would last for a long time, and one that would be superb for the purpose of trimming up big cuts of meat like brisket, would maintain an edge for a long time. And with Shun, I believe there's free sharpening for life. And so what you do is when your knife gets dull, even though these hold an edge for a long time, when your knife gets dull, you send them to Shun, they sharpen them for free and send it back to you. And that makes it so convenient to invest in high quality knives that will last a long, long time. I accidentally left this guy out. It's not one of the knives, but it does go with the Premier series of knives, and it comes with the set, and it's got a place here in the block for the honing rod. So this honing steel is actually used to kind of smooth out the edges. So as you're using the knife, the edge kind of bends, and it doesn't have the same sharpness that it did before. So what you use the honing rod for is to smooth those edges back out more straight so that you have a better cutting surface, or better cutting edge, rather. This wood is very similar to the wood that's used in the handles of the Premier knives. It doesn't look to be as glossy as that wood, and another thing is it doesn't have the Shun stamp at the back, but it does match in every other way with the Premier knives. And one other thing, this right here, actually, if you put the knife blade up against that, it tells you the correct angle to hone your knife. So you're not coming in at a wrong angle, like too steep or too shallow. You're coming in actually at the right angle to hone your knife to the correct 16 degree edge that the knives have. This is something I think you should use probably a couple times a week, depending on how much you use your knives, but it doesn't replace sending them off to get sharpened by a professional. So it's got its uses, but it doesn't keep your knives sharp forever. It just maintains their edge a little bit longer. So I've laid these out just so you can kind of get a perspective of one size knife to the other, the different shapes that they have, and you just get a good idea of what I've got here. I'm glad that I got these knives. I think it's going to be a great investment for the future. I think I'll be thrilled that I made this purchase, 15, 20 years from now, because they should last a long time and serve me really well for not only barbecue, but for cooking in the kitchen, and they look really, really nice. So they have kind of a decorative fanciness to them that I think I'll also enjoy. I'm going to spend several weeks using these knives, testing them out, all of them, testing out the boning knife and the paring knife, and especially the chef's knife. And I'm going to do a review of how I think all of them perform. And so keep on the lookout for that video in the next few weeks. Thank you for watching Mad Scientist Barbecue, and we'll see you next time. Try this out. Nice. All right, utility knife. Well done. Boning knife. All right. And then finally, big old chef knife. Give me some sharp knives right there. I'll cut you. Hi, welcome to Mad Scientist Barbecue. I'm Jeremy Yoder, and today we're going to unbox these Shun Premier knives that I ordered from Williams-Sonoma. In my last unboxing video, I showed you some Shun Sora knives that I got at Costco. Unfortunately, one of those knives had a huge chip in the blade, and so I had to take them back and return them. And I thought, since I had already ordered a Shun Premier boning knife from Williams-Sonoma, I thought I might as well order a few more pieces and a knife block and just get all of those instead of the Shun Sora knives that had a lot of what I thought were redundant knives and knives I probably wouldn't use at all. So these are those knives. They came in the mail, and today we're going to open them up and take a look at them. I also want to give a shout out to Andrew at the Topanga Canyon Williams-Sonoma in the mall. He was phenomenally helpful, and if I were a CEO of a company, I would want every single employee to be like that. He's a huge help. I can't recommend him highly enough. If you live in Los Angeles, go see him. He will help you out. All right, let's open these up. I'm going to use this box opener that I actually got when I worked at Kmart in high school.